when you're thinking about what are essential features, go through the research that you've gathered, ask yourself, listen to your gut, and based on that, skim down the prototype and then develop that accordingly. That's how I would think about it. Just tell me, how many of you have had ideas but don't know what to do with them? You've thought of that idea, and then a few years later, you see someone who has raised money for it, who has sold it, and you think, oh, I wish that was me. I wish I actually took the initiative. I wish I had the tech skills. I wish I found that tech co-founder. That was me. I had multiple ideas, but I didn't know what to do with them. Then I came across no code, and my perspective on bringing products to life completely changed. Today, I'll talk to you about how to launch your MVP with no code in partnership with Bubble. Here's what we'll talk through. We'll talk through an overview of no code, some of the pros and cons of tools like Bubble, practical steps to building, with time for questions at the end. Let me tell you a bit about my journey to kick things off. I'm Harish. I was working for Google and Google Cloud team as part of an API integration team. I left to build my own business. So I joined an incubator in London called Zinc. Zinc is a social impact incubator, and so it picks entrepreneurs to tackle the biggest social issues in developed countries. Our mission was to improve the quality of later life. There's an aging population, and so it's a problem I really cared deeply about. Now, with 50 entrepreneurs, I was hoping to meet a technical co-founder there, which unfortunately didn't happen. I didn't have a technical co-founder. I didn't have lots of money for an agency, and I didn't have the technical skills. So I came across Bubble, and my perspective completely changed. Now, our idea under this mission was to empower older adults to be entrepreneurs. Now, we all know of your mum's cooking and your grandma's recipe, and so we started with food. So we found older adults and we empowered them to be entrepreneurs, and we kicked that off with no code. I took matters into my own hands, and I started with a really, really basic MVP from Typeform, went to Wix, and then went over to Bubble when we had demand and customers were really kind of pushing us because they wanted a better customer experience. For context, Diaspo was running live cooking classes, which was amazing in the pandemic. We worked with Amazon, Spotify, and Accenture running corporate cooking classes. We worked with celebrity chefs such as Jamie Oliver and Atul Kutcher and Cyrus Todiwala, celebrity chefs. But then what happened is, some of you will know, is that you can't do everything in the business. So I needed to outsource it and find development partners and agencies. What I found was that the no-code ecosystem at that time was pretty immature and underdeveloped. There were certainly some amazing no-code agencies, but ones that just didn't fit with me. And so we decided to take matters again into our own hands. And a few years ago, I launched Goodspeed. Now, Goodspeed is a no-code agency. We use no-code tools to bring products to life, from MVPs for entrepreneurs to internal tools for enterprises. I really think with tools like Bubble, there's no entrepreneur too small and no enterprise too big. I benefited from using no-code tools to bring my ideas to life, and I haven't looked back. And I hope that this workshop will help you see the light as well. So let's talk about this. No-code is the notion that anyone can bring their idea to life, regardless of your technical skills, regardless of your background. No code is the notion that if you have an idea, you can bring it to life. As I mentioned, it completely shifted my perspective on launching products. Before, I used to ask myself the question, can I launch it? Right? Can I build this product? Now, I think about whether we should build it. And that's something we'll come on to later down the line as well. The way I like to think about it is IKEA or Lego, right? Either you can build something from scratch, or you can put pieces together. Think about how you build something with Lego or you build a table with IKEA. That for me is one of the best ways to think about building products with no code. No code isn't new. It's been around. It started with Excel. You've heard about WordPress. You've seen Shopify. And today, if you're not already familiar, there's really comprehensive no-code tools like Bubble. For me, Bubble is the most comprehensive no-code platform. I really think you can build anything with Bubble. There's endless potential. I speak to entrepreneurs every week, and I'm constantly amazed at the more and more we can do with a tool like Bubble. We often get questions about it, and I'll go through them, but Bubble's been around now for 10 years. It's raised $100 million. The foundation is there, right? 3.3 million apps have been built on Bubble. It's gone through help apps who've raised money, plus independent SaaS tools as well, with an incredibly powerful and passionate developer ecosystem. For us, Bubble is here to stay. And that should answer the questions that people have and the concerns they have. And it's a visual programming platform. And is it scalable? Like I mentioned, we have entrepreneurs to enterprises using it. Is it secure? Hosted by AWS? And is it reliable? Well, it's raised $100 million and it's been around for 10 years. So who is using Bubble? I spoke to you about launching our business on Bubble, which was a marketplace enabling home cooks to generate revenue and connecting people throughout the pandemic, such as big corporations. These are some of my favorite stories about Bubble. And just a reminder that there's no enterprise too big or no entrepreneur too small to use a tool like Bubble. I know companies, startups, entrepreneurs who have gone through famous accelerators such as YC. Often a question is, well, can you raise money if you're built with no code? And I think the question to that is, at an early stage, one of the most important aspects is, can you show traction, right? And I think if you're using a platform like Bubble, which is a no-code platform enabling you to iterate quickly, then you should be able to iterate the product as per customer feedback, to iterate fast, to get product market fit, to get traction. Now, if your traction's undeniable, then no one can say anything about how you've been built. In another way, I also feel it shows investors that you're incredibly resourceful. Now, these are points as well that we've heard from entrepreneurs who have raised money with no-code built platforms. In many ways, no-code is a real advantage. Then there's SaaS tools that have been acquired, such as Swapstack, a newsletter marketplace that was acquired by Beehive, a newsletter provider. An amazing story. And others who have actually shown the power of scale. This is one story where they replaced their whole code team with a Bubble team to move more efficiently and effectively, and now have generated over 10 mil gross revenue with a platform like Bubble. And so when you're thinking about Bubble and the future, first and foremost, I always think about the start, right? Think about the first step, think about how you can iterate to get traction. But then it also answers the other questions about scale, because there's enterprises that are using it as well. This is a tool to just show you what Bubble looks like. This is an AI travel planner that we built in a few days rather. And to just show you what a Bubble app actually looks like. And so at this last year, when everyone was hyping about AI, what we did is we built this AI travel planner. So say we want to go to Europe, just a slick platform, which, we don't operate anymore, but can show you that actually it's an incredibly easy experience. I can choose my budget, none, and then I can enter my And what I'm showing you here is Also showing you that actually, I think people doubt sometimes the beauty with no code apps. I think, you can build beautiful no code apps, and generally the bar for what you can build today, I think, is a lot higher. Customers expect a higher platform now. They expect a beautiful platform that really works. And I think no code really enables that. And so what this does is it connects to OpenAI to give you an itemized travel plan. So what this does is it plans out a 3-day trip within my budget, taking me to Berlin, having breakfast, and back at the hotel. And this was a platform that we built in a few days. Some of the pros and cons of Bubble, and let's start with the cons. One of the cons that people say about Bubble is that you can't export the code. Now, then I would really think about what you want to do, because the beauty of Bubble is that it enables you. The fact that you can't export the code means actually you can have the drag and drop functionality because of the way it's set up, which enables you to move quicker, right? Some people have doubted about Bubble's ability to build native apps. And the exciting news is we've played around with the Bubble mobile editor, and I'm incredibly excited about what we can build with Bubble moving forward. I'm sure you can hear more about that as well. Some of the pros of Bubble in our case is that really you can build anything you want. I believe you can build on top of your data. You can build efficiently and quickly. You can have a smaller development team with less resources who can do more, less resources in terms of number of people, but also who cost a lot less and can build a lot quicker. Those are some of the pros and cons, and happy to go through some of those questions in more detail about Bubble specifically. I've been seeing some ideas in the chat. If you can just chuck through some of the ideas that you're thinking about and you're building today. I saw some music platforms. I saw some health apps. I saw some SaaS tools. I saw e-commerce managing platform, a platform that connects school workers and students, a football club, learning apps, marketplaces, great, analytics tools, transaction platforms. I love it. All-in-one accountancy platform, amazing. When I started Bubble, we made so many mistakes. And so this is a step-by-step guide that will hopefully save you lots of time so that you don't make these mistakes. Now, I say that because everyone thinks about no code. And while it is a low barrier to entry to build, there's still a relatively steep learning curve. And while you can build quickly on Bubble, you still want to take the step back to make sure you're super clear about what you're building, right? Sometimes what I see a lot of people do is they jump straight into building without doing the necessary steps that we all know are super important when you're building a business. So for me, there's 4 steps that I always think about. What's the smallest MVP? Now, this can be even before you build on Bubble. I'm talking about a tweet, a LinkedIn, a social post where you can think, have I got some initial reaction to my idea? And I would really do that. I can see people saying already they don't want to share their idea. I would really encourage you, share your ideas and speak about them so you get that public opinion about it. But think, what's the smallest way you can test your idea? It could be a social post. It could be a conversation. The second is plan it. You really want to plan and think through your idea, not just jump straight into it. The way that we typically plan is we think through the user roles, the user stories, the user journeys. Then we design it. Now, we typically design in Figma. We start with low fidelity and we go through and convert them to high fidelity. And for us, that gives us a real reference point. Even you can convert that to a prototype and have that to share to customers when you then build on a tool like Bubble. So the smallest MVP for me would really be either a basic landing page or even a social post. I would encourage you to launch it and get, your friends, your family to engage with it. Plan your product. What are the features for version 1? Not version 10, but what are the features for version 1? Design low and high fidelity so you have this reference point, and then develop it. So, shall we? Something I love to do is this MVP GPT that helps me think through the basics of an idea. So what I will do here, and this is an idea I've been thinking a lot about with growing keywords, is an AI grant writer. Now, the reason for that is I think there's a lot of AI writing tools. I think there's space to be niche in this regard. And you can leverage the emergence of AI tools, such as OpenAI or Perplexity or others, but it also allows you to be super specific in one industry. And so for here, what I would type in is, say, an AI grant writer. You can tackle entrepreneurs, small businesses who are applying for grants. And I say that, now there's a real boom in the number of people that want to start businesses. This helps you think through the hypotheses. What is the demand hypothesis? Can we get enough people? What's the value prop? And what's the willingness to pay? And let's start with really validating the basic, functionality and demand. Create a basic landing page, card Wix, or of course Bubble itself, and start with a manual tool doing it. And then once you have that early traction over the next few days, build your real MVP with Bubble. And this helps you think through, what does success look like, right? How do you know that this will be successful? Think about the number of signups, the feedback, the conversion, and then build this on Bubble. Now, once we've planned our smallest MVP, what we would do is we would plan out the scope. This is how we would think about it. And this is a tool that we've been playing around with, which helps you plan your product. It really doesn't matter what tool you use. It's just helping you think through the user roles, the user stories, the user mapping. So I can say a tool to enable users to create successful grant applications. Who will be using the app and what do they do? Users to write applications, admin to manage the platform. Right now, they're just doing it manually. What are the key features? Write the questions. Write the grant questions. And then give AI assisted answers. And we know that people are spending hours on it. And so what this will do eventually, it will generate questions so you can think through the product. In the interest of time, I'll show you one that we did earlier. And so what this does, and this is what we think is a complete plan, right? We have Grant Mapped, which is an innovative application, and it helps you think through the primary purpose of the application. Whether you use a tool like this or you use ChatGPT or whichever, it really doesn't matter. I would really just think about how you can leverage AI tools to plan your product. Like, please just plan your product before you build, so you're super clear about what you're building and who you're building it for. This talks about the business users, primary owners, demographics, preferences. And then we're specifying the user roles, which is important for when we build. Sorry, the text is small. Which is important for when we build in a tool like Bubble, so we can specify them. These are the user roles. Who are they and how do they vary in the app? These are the user stories. As a business owner, I want to easily input my grant application so I can receive advice. And then we can plan for this to make sure that when we have the MVP, we organize all of these flows. And then these are the features. AI-powered grant matching, grant application history, interface. This is cool, right? It's a base to say, actually, we don't need all of this for version 1. And it allows you to think about, what is essential for version 1 and then plan the pages. Now, this is a home page and a grant application form. and support. So let's bear that in mind, and we'll go to Bubble very soon. But you can also think through the functional requirements. Now, this ensures that we have everything to make sure that when we're building and go live, we cover all of these so that users can register with a valid email, forgot password settings, admin dashboard, etc., and be aware of non-functional. And I would really encourage you to take these steps because, again, they allow you to plan the product properly. When we have more time, what we like to do is we like to map it all out with site maps and user flows. And so you can think through, okay, these are the different user types. These are their journeys, if they're logged in or not. And these are the new users, the sign up flow, member event flow, if they're members. And then what we would do is we would design it all in Figma. This is Getaway, the AI travel planner. And so we design all of this in Figma so that we can reference it to design it first and then develop it. And so you can see what we've done, as I showed you before, is have step-by-step screens for mobile and for desktop. What we would then do, knowing the pages, is we would go to Bubble. Now, excitingly, Bubble has launched some AI tools. And so let's create a new page and say a sign up form for my AI grant writer. And let's generate this with AI. Now, what it does is it will interpret the prompt, and then I'll talk through how we can do this. It's an outline, and I think, right now with all these AI tools, it's important to note that they are a great base and a great starting point. So you really want to leverage these tools to enable you to move quicker. Because now the speed at which you can create an MVP with tools like Bubble and other AI tools is incredibly quick. This is writing the page text, talking through it. And then what we will do is we'll show you exactly how that sign up works. So this is, calling us Grant Genius. Great. We can change aspects. It's created the inputs and the ideas. Amazing. What I like to do, let's just rename this input name. Input email. Input password. Input reset password. I'm just going to put Founded Institute. And these are all the inputs. So then what we will do now is we will set up a workflow so that I can sign up and take people here. So that action, sign the user up, the email, Founder Institute email value. Then what we will say is the password is Founder Institute password value. We have password confirmation here, Founder Institute. What did I save it as? Let's see. Oh, reset password. Should be a repeat password. And then what we will do is we will take them to the next page. Now I set up an onboarding page, which I will talk you through. And also what I had done earlier is I had set up a user just to create, it always comes default email, but just set up a data type for text. Now let me just talk you through the onboarding page that I created for the grant application. Now what this does is it says, this is the company name. Sorry, I hope I'm zoomed in now. This is a company name. So they would type in the company name and we have that input here. Then we would have the company description and then we would have about the grant. Now, the idea based on the information that we received from the smallest MVP and the product plan is that let's just start with one small feature. Let's describe the company and let's now describe the grant. And once we describe the grant, we can, once we describe the grant, what we can do is give context. Then we can send this to AI with some of the, like a typical grant question. The typical grant question that we've picked here is press submit to describe your project briefly and be clear about what makes it innovative. Now, let me just show you the workflows for this. And so what it does, it says, when when someone presses submit, create a new item that says this is a company name and this is what they've described the grant as. Then speak to OpenAI, send them this text so that it can give me the best output and then show me the answer. And so what we will do is let's go to our sign up here and go through that whole flow. Let me share this tab. Harish. And what it does is it sign me up. It's taken me over here. My company name is Goodspeed. We are a low code and AI agency. We want to apply for a grant that helps creative industries be more efficient with AI. And so this is a common grant question. And so the MVP is just focusing on one question. And then we'll submit it. And let's just check to make sure that everything works. There we go. So what happens is answers with AI. And even, if you start manually for the MVP, it still enables you to move quicker. Or if you don't worry about the design, you can show someone it. Our project at Goodspeed is focusing on innovating within the creative industries. So you don't have to think, when anyone's written a grant, sometimes it can be really time consuming to just get started. And actually, I think this kicks you off. So there we go. I would just reiterate the steps to launching. Start with your smallest MVP, plan it, design it, whether you design low fidelity with AI-driven tools such as Balsamic or leverage Figma, and then use the power of Bubble that can show you that you can use AI as well. These are the steps we use. These are the steps that we use when we're incubating new products as well. And I would really leverage no-code and low-code tools to help start your business. I'm Harish. This is Goodspeed Studio. I'll share my LinkedIn in the comments, but looking forward to questions you have. Thank you.
Thanks, Harish, for the presentation. It was pretty insightful, very clear. We have a couple of questions from the audience. So let's start with the first one here. So what are the main differences and limitations between using Bubble versus an ordinary project built on actual code for customizability, for example, and have any of the projects made by it made significant success so far?
Okay, thanks, Abdullah. I mean, it depends what you consider. Are we able to leave the question on there, Sana? It depends what you consider to be real success, really. I think that someone being acquired is success. I think honestly, someone selling their SaaS tool for a few $1,000s is success because they've incubated something and sold it. But there have been projects where they have raised significant amounts of money. And I say that because, it depends whether you think raising money from venture is also success. The other example that I referenced earlier is someone making $10 million of revenue. Um, in terms of the main differences and limitations between using Bubble versus a project on code, the benefits for us, I believe, is that you have very similar functionality with less resources. That's why we use a tool like Bubble. Then there's some specific cases which we can speak about where perhaps Bubble isn't so good. Someone had a HIPAA compliant app, and right now Bubble's just not HIPAA compliant. Right now, I also spoke about mobile apps. It's something that Bubble is really striving to get better at. I think that also some people have had questions about the SEO potential of Bubble. I know multiple Bubble apps that rank on Google. Having said that, you can use combinations of other no-code tools to make sure that you really rank. But happy to, if you reach out, happy to talk specifically about the use cases. I think it's a really use case specific scenario there.
Great. Thanks, Harish. Let's take another question from Abdullah. He's asking here, what is the significant edge that Bubble offers over AI-assisted programming? And isn't Bubble just a short-term facilitator for bringing your idea to light? And on the long term, it's best to stick to programming.
Okay, Abdullah. I like the question. I love the question, really. I showed you an AI tool from Bubble, which is very new. I really wouldn't your question is, isn't Bubble a short-term facilitator? Let's start with that. I think people initially think about that as an MVP. In my experience, Bubble exceeds people's initial expectations of the tool, right? And I think you can see that now with the increasing number of enterprises and businesses using Bubble. Some of them use them for internal tools, but ultimately, if they're an enterprise using an internal tool, then they would have had to pass kind of scalability and security questions to do so. And then I've also shown you how there's been successful, fast-growing startups who are venture-backed, others who are bootstrapped, but maybe have generated $10 million plus. And I think that answers the question of, hey, Bubble is not just an MVP tool right now, regardless of the name of this session. It's actually a tool that can enable you to scale, a tool that can enable you to scale. And I think as you continue to grow with the platform, people realize that potential a lot more and more. Okay, thank you, Volodymyr. I hope I can pronounce your name correctly. Um, I saw a great Alan from Tech Lego. Just a question from before who said that building a bubble, he scaled one bubble app to $2.5 million ARR. And so, there's some amazing bubble success stories where users are making significant revenue. How much faster is the development process with Bubble compared to a classical approach? The typical notion that people say is 10 times faster. Some people say 5 times faster. I think for me, what I love is twofold. I love the fact that it empowers non-technical people to make changes. I still know stories of teams having to message their development agencies, partners, development team for copy changes. And I think in 2024, that is ridiculous. And so the fact that someone can make a copy change in that time is amazing. And that should give you an insight into the type of changes that people can make, regardless of their tech skills. The other side of it is the mindset shift is the most important part for me. And so I would think about, it doesn't just enable you to develop quicker, it actually enables you to think quicker, right? Because instead of this long lead time and this kind of antiquated process of we have to do this and then we have to do this, I've shown you 4 steps where you can build pretty quickly. You can scope something out, you can test it with a very small MVP, you can plan it, you can scope it out, and you can build it. And for me, the biggest shift from a tool like Bubble versus code is how it changes your perspective on bringing products to life, because your reaction to user feedback also changes. you can now think about how you can iterate the product to get product market fit. And that's why I think it enables users not just to build quicker, but to think quicker. And when you're thinking quicker, you're building quicker as well. Yeah, so Bubble is hosted on AWS. And the beauty for me, what I've found is that you can also, depending on the plan, you can have a .bubble.io app, or you can honestly push it live within a second. And that for me has been an absolute game changer. You can make a quick change and push it live to the world within seconds. Hi HJ. Does it use wrappers to make it run within the various target? So if you want to enable a enable a Bubble app to be deployed on the Apple and Play Store, you wrap it. There's something called the BDK plugin where you can wrap it. The exciting new So then essentially that's a web app that's wrapped. The exciting news is Bubble is working on the mobile app editor. We've seen it. It's amazing. It's incredibly exciting. Um, Otherwise, it's hosted on AWS, and as I mentioned, you can push it live straight online within minutes, seconds, really.
Thanks, Harish. So I wasn't audible earlier. So yeah, we have a question here about the pricing. Actually, if you can, someone's asking about the pricing of for a tool like Goodspeed or.
So we're an agency. We're a go-to agency. Really, it depends on what you're building. Um, we have a minimum spend of $5,000, but we can work with you to go through discovery, go through design, and go through development. Otherwise, if not us, then Bubble has an amazing roster of agencies. It has an incredible Bubble ecosystem. If you don't want to work with an agency, then go to Upwork and find a freelancer there. And I say that because you really want to find the developer or agency that works with you. It may be that the reason I love working with entrepreneurs is because I've been there. I've been on your side of the table. And I think you really want to find people who really empathize and understand with what you're building, but also who care about what you're building, who communicate and are proactive. And I think that's really important when you're building a no-code tool, because of the lower barrier to entry with a tool like Bubble and no-code tools. Sometimes people say that they're experts and they might not be, but Bubble has a certification now where it's clearer who is certified. In short, the Bubble ecosystem is amazing. We're a go-to agency. We're one of the top Bubble agencies, so happy to help. If not us, then there's so many amazing agencies and developers out there as well.
Thanks, Harish. So let's take another question from Vladimir, who's asking here. Any tool has a learning curve. It's not possible to just start creating web applications when you know nothing about Bubble. How long does it take to learn Bubble to the level where you can create a web application relatively fast?
It depends how technical you are, really, on how technical your background is, right? Like for me, it probably took a year. I wasn't technical at all, frankly. I mean, I, I loved playing around with no-code tools. I wouldn't have considered myself technical. It sounds like you have a technical background already, and so relatively fast. I think you can do all the necessary boot camps. There's amazing YouTube videos, and I think that you can. I think that you yourself, based on the background that I've seen, could create something that you're impressed with within a matter of weeks. I think if you're head down building, and then in months you can build something impressive and comprehensive. And I think with I've just seen your title, but to build something even more comprehensive, you can integrate code as well and build a product that you're really impressed with.
Good. So let's take a question from Varun. He's asking, I've already built a no-code proto of my product on Figma, but it has many features. I want my MVP to have fewer features. What should be the logical next step, and how do I go about planning next steps?
Okay, nice. I like it, Ryan. I like the question. What the way I would think about it is if you haven't already, make sure that your prototype has gone out to users. Make sure you've got user feedback. And based on that, think about what are they asking for, or rather, what have they not asked for? Right. And what I mean by that is um, when people are silent, that's also feedback, right? If people haven't commented on a feature, maybe that's a sign that they don't just value it. And I think those are the signals, beyond user research sessions that you want to pick up on to help you prioritize what you're planning for in that version. And so when you're thinking about what are essential features, go through the research that you've gathered, ask yourself, listen to your gut, and based on that, skim down the prototype and then develop that accordingly. That's how I would think about it.
All right, so let's take now a question from James. He's asking if you had to estimate how much cheaper do you think a no-code build would be compared to a code build?
Hey, James. So I think people typically say 5 times cheaper and 10 times cheaper, and in our experience, it's generally worked like that, right? We've had people compare quotes of, say, 150,000 to build on code, and maybe we can do it for 15 to 20K. Ultimately, it depends on the functionality of it, but that's generally what we have seen in the market. I also think, again, back to my previous point, it's a mindset shift. I think, with no code, it enables you to lean more into that iterative approach. And so we would help you think through what that version 1 looks like, be super lean and clear about what every essential feature is, and then accordingly plan for version 2 and 3 when you get customer feedback, and then build on it. Because don't want to spend so much time building out the first version or money. You want to build out the first version, get feedback, iterate, and build.
Great. Let's take a question from my Steve. And he's asking if I built my MVP on Bubble, would it be possible to migrate to a programming platform without having to build again from the start?
So in short, no. One of the frustrations that people have about a tool like Bubble is that you can't export the code. I guess my question would be to question why you would want to rebuild it, right? Because I think more and more people have increasing faith and great case studies on the scalability, security, and like privacy with a tool like Bubble. If you decide actually it's not for you, then you would have to start from scratch. The beauty is that you can export your data.
Cool. So there's a question here about what's the possibility of using analytics with Bubble?
Hi, currently the possibility is endless, and what I mean by that is you can integrate all your analytics tools within there. For us, I love Hotjar, just to see how people are behaving with our app. And so if there's other, we've just integrated June into a Bubble app as well, like a great product analytics tool. And so if they have an API, or if they have an easy embed, then you can integrate the necessary analytics tools that you have there.
Okay. So let's take another question. We have a lot of good questions here in the Q&A sections. I'm trying to select. So using Bubble, if I get a million users, is it difficult for me to build it in programming language if Bubble cannot handle it?
I'm not sure I understand this question. Using Bubble, if I get a million users, isn't it difficult for me to build it in programming language if Bubble cannot handle it? Are you asking? I guess my interpretation is, what's the scale of Bubble?
Yeah.
Really, I guess this question thinks about, to what level are people using Bubble, right? Is it a million concurrent users, which is a question, or is it a million users that are maybe using it, once a year and just hosting on the platform? And so it depends on the level of functionality and engagement that someone would have in the platform.
All right. Yeah, I think that's all we have like for the questions. We still have other specific questions, but I don't know if Harish can dedicate some few time for the networking. Maybe you can ask him these specific questions in the table, so that's would be better for him and for everyone here in the webinar. So thanks everyone. Thanks Harish. Sorry, I have some issues with my camera. Otherwise, so yeah, it was very insightful. You will receive the recording of the event after 48 hours from now. So make sure you are registered on the link so that you can receive the email. Please, Harish, will dedicate some time for the audience. They would like to talk to you, maybe ask you more specific questions about Bubble and your experience. So don't leave the event yet. We still have networking lounge. It will stay as long as you guys stay. So keep an eye on our upcoming events, and thank you all for today's session, and see you in the future events.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Shana. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.
Thanks, Harsh.